Okay, so hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Marcello, for speaking. I know you've spoken at a few of our events in the past, and it's always great to have you.
Thank you very
So,
much.
yeah, no problem. So, Marcella Scarsella is an employment consultant for the Speed Mentoring Program at Access Employment. An enthusiastic facilitator and seasoned professional, Marcella is passionate about supporting job seekers in their journey to find meaningful employment. Thanks again for speaking today, Marcella. Good luck with your presentation.
Alex, thank you so much. And for those that have entered and for those that will be hopefully entering in, and again, I'll thank, hope I'm saying it right, Rugi-thon, who I thought was part of the Toronto team. See, Rugi-thon, you even fooled me. So, but I thank you for responding to some of the questions. I was just checking the sound check and checking technology. So welcome everybody. I know everybody's time is valuable. One of the main things is certainly always want to respect people's time. And I have no doubt that you've had a chance to really meet some wonderful people and do some wonderful networking, for the student career conference today. And again, my name, as Alex said, my name is Marcello Scarsella, and you probably saw my name on the in there on the information. So I'm going to say a couple of things right up front before we even get into talking about networking for a career. So I do work with ACCES Employment. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of ACCES Employment. I'm going to talk a little bit about ACCES. It's not a sales pitch, by the way, because we all do many great things. Toronto Jobs been around for many years and does some fantastic work. And thanks to Toronto Jobs, which I appreciate on behalf of ACCES, being able to give us a chance to be here and just to hopefully share some things that can be of help a little bit. And also talk a little bit about ACCES, but also talk about a very important topic, which is networking for your career. I've been with ACCES for actually I'm in my 12th year, so I've had an opportunity to meet many talented clients, of all ages, shall we say, okay, and from all around the world. So whatever I'm sharing, or I'm sure whatever you're hearing today, believe it or not, applies to everyone really, because the basic principles are there. So I'm going to say that right up front. Okay, so and I hope that now I'm going to switch the slide. So maybe if someone can tell me that if you can see the slide switching, probably hopefully maybe Rugathon or somebody can just maybe type me a note. I'll be keeping a quick eye on the chat in case there are any questions. I'll do my very best to answer whatever questions you may have. If I don't get to your question by chance, because our timing is quite tight and short, look up my name, which is Marcello Scarsella. You see it in the program and in the information for the event. Look me up on LinkedIn if anybody has LinkedIn, and you can feel free to send me a message or ask me a question that I could get to, and I can be more than happy to share my thoughts. This is not a LinkedIn workshop per se, presentation, but I've done a lot of work with LinkedIn, so I'd be more than happy to provide very brief feedback on your LinkedIn profile if you wish that as well. So I don't mind that. So I'm just saying that right up front. Okay. Well, this screen talks a little bit about. Okay. Can you see the next slide? Sorry, I'm just looking at. Okay. Can everybody see this slide here? Maybe Ruth or somebody can respond to me. I don't know if somebody's there. Okay. If anybody just can let me know if you can see the slide. Okay. Yes. Test. Okay. Perfect. And again, this really applies. What you're seeing here, Employment Ontario Services or EO. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jesse. Are you having difficulty reading the slides? Is that what somebody was saying? Okay. Attendees click twice on the presentation to make the. Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks, Jesse. By the way, thank you for that. And again, we are one of many services out there. So I'm sure you could, if you look up, the services out there that all do very meaningful work, which is to help job seekers really, through just support them through their journey to securing employment. And there are many ways to do that. So when it comes to ACCES Employment, we're certainly part of that grouping as well. And there, we really provide many opportunities to practice, for example, mock interviews or, interview skills. We have opportunities where we coordinate events. We call them speed mentoring events, for example. Actually, I'm part of that team, as a matter of fact. So where we host and facilitate and create various type of networking events, guest speaker events, and so on. That's just a sampling of some of the things that we do. I encourage you from now, if I may, on behalf of ACCES, to look us up. Look up ACCES Employment, ACCES. You can see it there on the screen. Okay, and just go on our website, accessemployment, all one word, .ca. And I encourage you, because a big part of your success in job search, but of course a big part of that is in your networking, is really looking for chances, especially these days virtually, to join as many sessions as you can, because you never know who you're going to meet, number one. And there's a lot of information out there that can help you from a job search perspective. And you know, so again, there are webinars, there are programs, there's many things online that you can register for. So I would certainly encourage you to do so and check out the website from that point of view. Now, this topic today, networking for a career, is one of the what we call a workshop series, or we call a virtual workshop series, really. And today's topic is networking for your career. Okay, so I'm just going to really highlight some of the questions that we're going to do our best to sort of respond to or address. And really, we think about networking. I mean, you know, number one, where does networking fit into a job search strategy? What's the big deal about networking? I'm sure a lot of you, whether you know, again, you've taken some programs, you've just graduated. You know, there's a lot of students in our groups today, but this applies to everyone. Like I said before, you know, what's the big deal about networking? Everybody talks about networking, man. What's the big deal about networking? I mean, well, people always talk about that. I mean, you know, does it really work? You know, okay, so we're going to talk a bit about that. How do you get the most from your network? And now we're going to also address that question, because that's key. You know, and I'm going to say, by the way, I'll be saying sort of side things as we're going through. So I hope whatever I suggest here in our short time together does help you a little bit, or helps you raise a question, or maybe think about something that relates to networking specifically. So, you know, I mean, how do you get the most from your network? So in other words, this is about mindset, and I'll say this right up front. You know, are you approaching the idea of networking, which really, if I were to summarize with all the different definitions that are out there, it's really about building relationships. That's really what you're doing, or building partnerships. You know, online, virtually, especially these days. You know, and of course, hopefully, we'll get back to a time where you can do a lot of that stuff live as well, of course, and have those nice, what they call coffee chats and conversations and so on. But you can have those coffee chats and virtual conversations online, very much so. And there's more and more opportunity to do so. And so really, it's your mindset. How are you approaching networking? Are you saying, oh, okay, I'm going to build my network so I can get a job? Well, of course, you want to become employed at some point, of course. But if you approach with that mindset, then really, without realizing it, you can come across very desperate. You can come across as if, well, you know, it's just about you and not about them. The mindset really, I'm going to say this again very strongly at the beginning, it really should be about, hey, how can I be of help to people? Because you have a lot more to offer than what you may think you do. And the more you offer to help people, or perhaps ask them, you know, what could help them? You know, the more you approach things from that point of view, then believe it or not, it does end up helping you quite a bit. And you're going to share more information, more meaningful information. So a key word there, mindset. It's your approach. Very critical. How do you give the most to your network? So, you know, so again, what can you do to sort of support and help your network as you're building your connections? Okay, so we're going to do our very best to address some of these key questions as we're going through. Okay, everyone's still okay, hopefully? I'm just going to continue on. Now, before I get into, this is a really big question, so I'm going to cover some key information that relates to this particular topic. So where does networking fit into your job search strategy? So again, there's that question, you know, what's the big deal about networking? And I mentioned the key thing about, you know, mindset. I mean, that's you know, that's critical. So again, you know, approaching it from, yeah, it's about them, not about me. Now, of course, in the end, like I said before, you want to secure that job or that position or opportunity to maybe get your foot in the door, as everybody says. So that's critical. However, the more you approach it from the point of, okay, how can I help people? Then that's going to be more rewarding for you. Another big part of where does networking fit in? I mean, and when you think about networking, and of course, networking for the most part, like today, for example, we're on a platform called Hopin. At ACCES, we've used Hopin a little bit. We are mainly a Zoom sort of platform, you know, organization. We have used WebEx sometimes. We do use Microsoft Teams, so you know we're using a lot of the platform or software that a lot of companies organizations use. So projecting yourself virtually effectively is very important, no matter what you do, especially when it comes to networking, because you never know who you're going to meet. Like today, it's a good example. Here you are out there virtually, you know, you're joining various different sessions like this session today, and I know there are many other guest speakers, and there's some fantastic speakers today, so you have a lot to choose from. but you never know what can happen even as a follow-up, or you may schedule something afterwards based on maybe a conversation. So again, whatever opportunity you have, or it could be even an interview, it's important to present yourself in the most positive way. Let's put it that way. So the power of your virtual, shall we say, nonverbal impression. There, I just made that up, but that sounds pretty good. Virtual, nonverbal power impression. There's that old line that says, "Hey, you know what? You don't get a second chance to make a great first impression." So that really gets down to it. And by the way, I think I just saw a question here. So Rugathan Aswan, thank you, Rugathan. What would be better? Using LinkedIn or emailing to get a conversation with someone? Well, you know what? Let me give you my sort of brief, short answer on that one. Definitely LinkedIn in that sense. I mean, emailing. Don't get me wrong. Emailing can be very effective and so on. When it comes to getting that conversation going with someone, or it's really much better if you sort of build that initial connection, and that's where LinkedIn is very, very powerful. It comes in handy. That's where you can sort of send and again, it doesn't have to be anything formal. It could be. It's just basically you want to show that you've taken the time to even look at someone's profile, for example, that you want to get to know. Or that person may work in a company that you want to, maybe learn a bit more about and see if you can have a bit of a conversation. I mean, bottom line is, when you're looking to connect with people on LinkedIn, and as you begin to get responses, you won't always get responses. I mean, that's a fact, because people are busy, or sometimes they don't always look at LinkedIn. But you got to be persistent. The key to success is being persistent and maintaining that activity. So yeah, really thought, and I don't know if that answers it, but basically I would go starting to focus on the LinkedIn part to start making those connections and building those relationships. And then email is a great follow-up tool to sort of, check in every so often. And again, you can message through LinkedIn, but of course, if it gets past that point, then email can be sort of that, secondary type of contact. So that's the best way I would say it. I don't know, does that help you a little bit, Rigathan? Okay, no problem. Okay. So again, I was talking about nonverbal and making that great impression. There's a lot of great information on YouTube. There's a lot of great information about nonverbal and making a positive impact with your body language, and your eye contact, and just the overall image is very important. Which it's always important to begin with, but especially virtually. Okay. I encourage you to, again, I mentioned about ACCESS, but through Toronto Jobs and many services out there, there's so much LinkedIn Learning. If you have a premium account with LinkedIn, then you can have access to LinkedIn Learning. And if I would encourage everyone, as much as possible, if you can get into LinkedIn Learning through the premium account or whatever the case may be, there are so many great topics on LinkedIn Learning. It's incredible. And most of the courses are very short, an hour, sometimes 2 hours. There's some there maybe 3, but you get recognition for that. Automatically gets posted to your LinkedIn profile. And again, that adds value to your profile, but it certainly adds value for yourself as well. It shows that you were continually learning. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit. All right, so let me just continue on with this, because I know I'm just watching our time here. So you notice that now I'm not a chess player, but believe it or not, so maybe somebody who plays chess can see to recognize those, those figures. But I'm just going to touch on a little bit about this. So when it comes to networking, it fits into your job search strategy. This applies to everyone, like I said. Okay, and one part of it is career aspirations and goals. So what are your goals? And of course, you hear people always talk about this. What is your short-term goal? What is your long-term goal? Many clients that I've worked with, and I, of course, still do over with my current project in speed mentoring, tend to suggest things like, hey, you know what? It's kind of good to have sort of plan A and plan B. Plan A could be like your big picture. Okay, my big picture goal is to, whatever, maybe be, I don't know, project manager in the IT sector, for example, with a certain company. It could be that, and that could be a 2 or 3 year goal. It might even be a 5-year goal as far as that goes. But so you do the things that are necessary to get yourself prepared for that, and so that's that road that you're traveling through. The plan B may be something, okay, but in the meantime, I've got a lot of great skills. A lot of great things in my career. As a student, as a graduate, again, it's amazing. This is where I encourage students and graduates there. Okay. And again, this applies to everyone, but specifically students and graduates that are here today. you know what? Take a hard look at what you have done, and maybe you've done some part-time work. Maybe you've done some maybe volunteering. Those are all great things to have on your resume because it shows that you've demonstrated certain skills. Perhaps you have been a leader in a project or many projects throughout your education. Maybe you've taken upon yourself to volunteer for committees and so on. Really take a look at all the things that you've done because you have demonstrated skills, and those are the things that you need to be able to express and talk about when you are, as you're building your network, so people get to know a lot of things that you've done and get to know your story and your character. So I strongly encourage you to do that. That's really critical. So if you don't have a lot of work experience, I would look at what you have done in your education. So again, I really can't stress that enough. So hope that helps a little bit. Number two, or the second part of the overall steps in your job search strategy is identify your skills. So now, so as I just said before, what are those skills that you have? What are those top 5 or top 10 skills? I tend to suggest to clients to go on Google, good old Google, right? And search. For example, you could search a top 10. You can even search a top 20, but go with the top 10. Top 10 skills that employers look for in Canada. And you put in, 2020, or you can put in 2021. There's a lot of great information out there, and that gives you a sense of what are some of the employers looking for. And if you've got some of those skills, there's a very good chance that a lot of you have a large percentage of the skills that employers are looking for. Okay, so now here's the question. So, okay, you've got that. So number 2 is, well, gee, have I presented those skills, effectively on my resume? Am I able to talk about those skills? Am I able to really give some examples of how I've used those skills, demonstrate those skills? Example I said before, maybe in a project, a team, or a committee, or something that you've led during your education. So now, just as an example, and I'm going to mention someone that you could follow if you wish on LinkedIn or Instagram as well. And his name is Ken Coleman. I'm just going to give you some examples, people you can kind of pick up some tips from. Ken and Coleman is Coleman. And one of the things he had, I just saw this a couple of days ago, actually, is 10 emerging skills. Now, some of these probably won't surprise you. Things like analytical thinking, things like active learning. So analytical thinking is a big one. Active learning, so constantly, engaging yourself in any opportunity to learn, especially online these days. Okay. Complex problem solving is another one. Critical thinking and analysis, very, very important. Creativity and initiative, and you'll find this you can Google this stuff too. Okay, I'm just trying to give you some examples. Leadership and influence. Now, I mean, in leadership is one thing. There's so much information on leadership on LinkedIn, especially. And I tend to, if you see me on LinkedIn, if you decide to send me a message on LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of things that I share and post. And a lot of things are leadership, strategy related, quotes, motivational, thoughts and ideas that hopefully encourage you and help you feel confident throughout this journey that we're all traveling. The COVID-19 pandemic sort of virtual journey, shall we say? But the word influence is interesting, isn't it? Being able to influence people, hopefully in a positive way, to buy into maybe one of your ideas or proposal, or influence people to work effectively together. There's a lot of skill that goes behind being able to influence people. So I'll kind of leave that sort of with you. That's something that you could research on your own as well. Use of technology. I mean, that's a technology design. It's another area. So these are another emerging skills. Resilience and flexibility. There's a lot of great information about being resilient and flexible, especially in today's world. I mean, look what's happened in the last year or so. So this is what companies are looking for. They're looking for people that are resilient, that are flexible, that are willing to learn continuously. Go with the flow, put it that way, and constantly looking for new ways to do things. There's a lot of that. So I just want to share some of those with you. But again, you can look those up. And before I go any further, by the way, this relates to networking and of course through LinkedIn as well. But there's some great articles that relate to networking, especially for students and grads. Believe it or not, I just saw some recently out of U of T, so University of Toronto. There's something called Talent Egg. They're out for many years that are experts in recruiting and providing information about job search strategy in general. So Talent Egg, believe it or not. So talent and the word egg, actually together, believe it or not. some names here that I've had the pleasure of actually working with and been involved and been participants in their sessions as well. They are experts in the field of social media, LinkedIn, especially networking and branding. There's another big area. Leslie Hughes. So Leslie as an Leslie, Hughes, Hughes. Cher Jones. So Cher is in Cher, last name Jones. And another individual who has made it a mission to help students, grads, youth, experienced professionals, because he established himself. He arrived actually into Canada about 10 to 15 years ago, and he's done very well for himself. And he puts a lot of stuff on LinkedIn and other platforms, skills, LinkedIn, networking, and so on. His name is Zeeshan, Zeeshan, last name Ali. So I just want to share those things before I forget. Okay, so hope some of this stuff helps you a little bit. So again, identify your skills, very important. Know what they are, be able to present them. In other words, what's your story? What do you have to offer? What can you bring to the table, as they say? Okay, job search targets. Well, it's important to have targets, absolutely. One thing that I tend to suggest, you don't want to overwhelm yourself. I mean, let's face it, one of the key things that I tend to encourage clients and my connections on LinkedIn, anyone that I interact with, virtually and otherwise, hey, you know what? Beyond all this, you got to take care of yourself. What are you doing to take care of yourself? It doesn't matter if you're a student, you're grad, you're at a, or if you're a professional, or you've been a seasoned professional, shall we say, or if you look at it, it's important for everyone to do what works for you to take care of yourself, to make you feel good, to give you some peace, some calm, maybe to re-energize yourself whatever way that works for you. But block out, take the time to do that. That's actually a part of your job search strategy. If it's not now, it should be. That's a big part. And of course, a big part of that, activity, of course, is networking. But I'm just saying. So, break down your targets, job search targets. Maybe you want to make 5 new contacts via LinkedIn, for example, by the end of this week. That could be, or the end of next week. That could be a goal. Maybe you want to have 1 new contact each day. So that's just some examples of how you can sort of break down your targets. It's like going up a flight of stairs. You're going to go up 1 step at a time, unless you're Spider-Man or whatever the case may be, and you've got strong legs, and you're not going to jump the whole flight in one shot, right? So it's 1 step at a time. I'm a big believer in moments. If you see my LinkedIn profile, you see a lot of posts, and I do even many video clips that I talk a little bit about things that hopefully can encourage you and motivate you. And one of the things I talked about is, micro moments. So taking that, whatever that moment is, whether it's exercise, you're going for a walk, whatever it might be, but take a moment to be in the moment. There, and I'm going to share that, leave that with you. It's pretty deep, huh? That's actually from a TV commercial I saw recently. Take a moment to be in the moment. Very important. That's the big part of maintaining your balance in your job search. Okay. So I'm going to focus just on. So again, that's all part of your job search strategy. But networking itself, of course, is the big piece of the pie. Okay, bottom line. 80, 85%, even 90% of the jobs that are out there are hidden. There's a hidden job market, they call it, and that applies for everybody. That hasn't changed in years, because there are many jobs that are just not advertised. But how do you get to that hidden job market? That's always the question everybody asks. Well, how do you get there? Well, networking is the key. Building those connections, building those relationships. The more people that know about you, the better. It's better to have for example, some quality conversations virtually, whether it's on Zoom. These days, there's no excuse. There's Zoom, there's WhatsApp, there's FaceTime, there's Microsoft Teams. I mean, there's so many different ways to have a conversation with somebody virtually. So it's better to have 2 or 3 or 5 quality conversations than having, let's say, 15 or 20. Say, well, I had 15, 20 conversations. That's great. What'd you get out of it? So quality versus quantity. Very, very important. Okay, I'm going to go on here just a little bit. So talking about networking. Okay, networking is a two-way process and a mutually beneficial exchange of information, services, and resources among individuals and groups. So that's really the bottom line. Okay, so it is a two-way process. Okay, it's about mutual benefit. That's the bottom line. That's the mindset that will carry you to the point of building your network. Okay, does networking work? Great question, right? Yes, it does. Most employers really tend to prefer to speak with someone that's been either referred by someone, or perhaps they've met through virtually. or referred by maybe a staffing service. But so in other words, if there's a story behind that person, okay, they could be an internal hire, they could be an external candidate referred by a current employee, referral from a trusted contact in their network. So but bottom line is, your name wouldn't even come forward unless you had been networking. You've been building those relationships. It really, really gets down to that. Again, who and where, who could you network with? Well, these are just some examples here. You have this lady here. She says, I asked a friend for an introduction. This gentleman here, I went to a fundraising event. Hey, there's a lot of those happening, even virtually these days. Okay, we do events like that, believe it or not, even to our organization, the same kind of thing. So a lot of companies are doing many things virtually. No surprise, right? Especially in the last year. I asked my son's soccer coach to introduce me to his boss. Hey, that can happen. Okay, I attended a conference. So again, this lady, like today, like all of you that are either on this particular presentation or have had a chance today, that you attended this conference today. So it gives you a chance to, first of all, number one, get yourself going, show your story, show who you are, interact with different professionals, and network. So you never know where you're going to network. It doesn't always have to be in a professional setting. It could be someone that, like here, that you know, or a friend perhaps, referred you. So the bottom line is, no matter what the situation is, it's always good to be at your best. I mean, that's the bottom line. You want to show your best, be at your best. Because people do talk. No matter, I don't care if it's live or virtually, people do talk. If you impress them, whether it's through your presence, the way you maybe responded to questions, perhaps just maybe your personality, your character, it's amazing how people talk. And these days, if people are talking via social media, that's pretty powerful. I'm sure all of you would agree with that. Okay, how do you focus your networking? Well, and I meant this earlier, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's important to have a clear goal. So what are you planning, organizing? In other words, what is your goal? Well, the main goal I'm going to suggest strongly is to build relationships. It is about that. It's not about expecting something to happen just like that. I understand my finger there, but just like that. Most of the time, that's not going to happen that way. It's a building process. It's like you're building, using building blocks. Let's put it this way. They build a foundation. So you've got to already accept that in your mind before you can be successful at networking. Okay. Reaching out. I mean, a big part of networking is, basically that's the bottom line. You want to reach out, and of course these days it's virtually and otherwise, of course, right? Look at our two little visuals. So be yourself and be specific. I always tell the clients this all the time. Be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Be who you are. Be the best of who you are. Let's put it that way. Okay. Whenever you do reach out to people, again, it's always going to be online for the most part, or maybe you're on the phone, but in most cases it's online, virtually. Explain who you are. Who are you? You want to be able to build trust, and trust, it takes a while to build. In other words, you want to be genuine. Be genuine. Be authentic, as people start to say these days. Be real. Just be who you are. Why are you reaching out? Well, in most cases, let's face it, to give you a real hint here, in most cases, when you're reaching out and want to connect with somebody on LinkedIn or virtually through other platforms, hey, you know what? Let's face it, everybody's expanding their network, for sure. Everybody's learning about industry trends, for sure. So expanding, are we all expanding our network? Yes. Are you learning about industry trends? Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just watching our time here. It's 3:29 already, my goodness. So again, just be clear on what your intent is. That's the key. And again, there's always many events out there, and you want to be able to tell your story. Tell people about yourself. Who are you? What do you specialize in, or what's unique about you? You want to really make sure that you expand on that. And I'm going to end off with this slide here. Big part of everything here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope some of this has helped you a little bit, and I apologize for the time. Sorry, Alex, I'm just about done here. It's about adding value. So what value can you add, and how can you help people when you're building a network? Well, a big part of this, just by listening. Sometimes just being a sounding board is really great. A lot of people just need that, and you never know. And by doing that, you can help people just by listening, being a sounding board. Facilitate connections. Maybe you can coordinate people, connect with other people, and a lot of people do this on LinkedIn as well. Find or be a mentor. And again, there's a lot of services that offer mentoring support, and I'm sure Toronto Jobs has can refer you to different places. I know with ACCES we have mentoring support as well that you can inquire about. Share your expertise, share your knowledge, resources, content. Share a part of yourself, because the more you do that, the more comes back to you. That's been proven time and time again. You might be surprised by how much you have to give to others. It's amazing. Interact with their social media accounts. So if they have, again, their Instagram, of course, on LinkedIn, begin to engage. A big part of your success today in networking is understand who they are and begin to engage. Don't just do it just for the sake of doing it. Doing it because it's meaningful. Maybe there's something that you have in common. There's a connection there between both of you. Okay. You can write recommendations, and you can do this on LinkedIn, it'll show you how to do that. I'm sure. Providing support, motivation, inspiration, and that's a big plus, by the way, these days. Just encouraging people. Say, hey, you know what? You'll get through it. Here's what helped me, for example. What is it? If something's really helped you, then hey, you know what? Share that with other individuals. These days, especially, I encourage everyone to find ways to encourage other people, because they will also encourage you. And I cannot stress that enough. And on that note, of course, keep in touch with people. So again, keeping in contact virtually and otherwise. So that's a big part of building your network. So there's that personal side, but also the professional side. Showing your character, show who you are, and build those relationships. So I thank you for your kind attention. I'm going to stop sharing. Alex, how are we doing for time? We're okay? Is anybody there? Yeah, 3:32. I want to respect everybody's time. And again, I just want to remind everybody, Bubba, thanks for your kind attention. I hope some information here has helped you a little bit. I saw a few names here on the listing, so appreciate you coming by. Whoever's here, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Rick Thon, thank you so much, sir.
Marcello. Sorry, can you hear me okay? Sorry,
I can. Yeah, there you go. How you doing?
Great. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I just
Okay.
sorry, I was having issues connecting. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for your presentation. It's always great to have you speaking at events. Definitely a really great source of information.
Thank you.
If people want to contact you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, I actually mentioned, and you know what? I have no problem if they want to message me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's fine. Just send a message, or they want to. If they had a question, maybe that I didn't have a chance to answer, they can definitely do it. Just look up my name, and they can look me up on LinkedIn. No problem.
Awesome, great. And do you want me to just throw that in chat maybe for you? Just so they can...
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So let me just get that here. And yeah, I just want to say thanks again for speaking. It's always great to have you at our events. Marcello has spoken at a number of our virtual events, and I believe at our live events as well, correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah, in the past, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was before I was with the company, but yeah, it's always great to work with you. It's definitely a great source of information. And thanks again. Just to let everyone know, so our panel is actually live on stage now. So Marcello is part of the last sessions for today, and now it's our main stage panel of experts, and that'll close off the event at 4. But thanks again, Marcello, for speaking. It's always
Thank
great to have you.
Oh, thanks, Alice, and thanks everyone and good luck with future networking. Take care. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye now.